Okay. So we just get to start. And here we are today with my new friends. I have Nicholas and Martinez from Altair Enterprises. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thank
Beth.
you, Beth.
Pleasure.
Pleasure to be here.
Hi, it is so good to finally meet you. We've been enjoying each other's notes back and forth, and you have been busy, both of you. There's a lot going on. So I want to start with who you are and what you're doing, and then what's coming right around the corner. You are both CEOs of Altair Enterprises, and you're the organizers of this, small little event that's international coming up real soon around the corner, the International Space Convention of 2022. And you're co authors and your podcast hosts. So I'm so grateful you're taking the time to speak with us today here on Casual Space.
Thank you. Nika, do you want to
Yeah.
get started?
Yep, of course.
Go ahead.
Well,
So
let's
thank
talk
you
about what
once
you
again,
do.
Beth.
Go
Yep. So
ahead.
let's start. I don't know even where to start from, but I think we can start off from what Altair Enterprises is, as this is the main company that is in charge of all those activities that you mentioned. If it's International Space Convention or if it's the Altair Insights podcast, right? So we can start from that. So Altair Enterprises is a space education company. And we have the main goal to accelerate the growth of the space economy. As we're seeing currently, the financial firms like Morgan Stanley and other institutions. Let's wait a bit.
Oh, go ahead. There we go.
Yeah, I think there was a freeze, right? So
Yes, Morgan Stanley's where you left off.
yep. So as we have right now, Morgan Stanley and other financial institutions that are projecting that space industry is expected to reach 1 trillion mark, right, of global revenue annually in 2040, right, and which this number looks exciting, right? But obviously, we as a company, we are looking to accelerate this growth, and we are thinking what can be done and what is needed first of all to support that growth and to make sure that that really happens, right? Those projections, but
Right.
also to go a little bit beyond that and to make sure that that happens not in 2040 but can happen in 2038, in 2035, right? So how can we accelerate that? And obviously education being the fundamental of every single industry, we are supporting obviously industry with the new generation workforce that we are creating, and we support this creation by several verticals, one of them being the on-demand learning that we are currently working on developing the platform that is going to host on-demand courses that individuals will be able to access anywhere in the world, right? Given
Wow.
that they have this internet connection, and
Hmm.
they will be able to get specific knowledge, so from basics to advanced level, right, in space education, the different verticals, that different segments that there are, right? So additionally, we also fostering international cooperation by organizing International Space Convention, which is the biggest event, one of the biggest event that takes place this year, actually, the biggest conferences that is solely focused on business, right, and international partnership. And we do foster international cooperation with that. Plus, we're supporting the current region where it's taking place. So it's Caucasus region. This is the place, and it's obviously happening in Turkey, but it's covering 4 countries at the same time, which is very rare. Other conventions rarely do that, right?
Yeah.
And with that, we're hoping, and we are obviously gonna achieve that, right? To bring this region to closer to the standards that European space industry and the US has, for example, right? So that's the two main verticals that we work with. Obviously, then we have Alter Insight. So this is a podcast where space meets business, right? Where we joined with the industry's most prominent leaders from space tech companies, right? Mainly, we do cover the success stories of their companies. So what road they went, right? What decisions they made, what partnerships, what role the third-party partnerships played in their success, right? And how they view things and what their insights would be, right, for the next future generation of entrepreneurs, right? So that's briefly, and I'll let also Martinez to continue and cover the book that we also published recently.
Yeah. So besides the book, obviously, so as the name so I'll try to keep it as casual as possible during this conversation as well. And thank you again, Beth, for greeting us here today with your beautiful voice, and also that I know that you do voiceovers, so I kind of recognize that right away when you
Aw.
opened up. So that's it, it's amazing. And again, big fans. So have to give you that before we start. But going back to kind of finishing off what Nika was saying, obviously with the space business. So we talk about many different things. We have many different verticals inside of the company, but just going back to the kind of who we individual are, and Nika kind of covered more of the
Yes.
business aspect. We we're just at the end, at the core, we're obviously space enthusiasts, right? I think that's also a thing that we see sometimes, that's being lost sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Because we focus maybe on the business more, or we still want to have that kind of young passion and kind of the drive, right? But at the same time, focus on a business and do big conventions if it's ISC or another projects that we have in a pipeline, kind of keeping those on the shelf and pulling when the timing is ready, right? But including in that book, that's what people are going to find, those 7 steps. The way we see an industry, or like the way we see it, it might not be perfect for everybody, right? So this is just only our point of view and how we see it, right? We'll cover everything. We cover from the starting, how do you acquire capital.
Oh, and we had a little freeze again. I want to go back and ask once we get
That
back.
we see. And actually, we wrote this booklet still in the time while developing this convention, and actually we already starting the planning phases for the next year as well. So while still being super busy, we just found time to, just because of the sheer passion and want to
Yeah.
kind of ignite the next generation individuals. And that's what we wrote actually while we developing this year's convention. We are writing this booklet, right? And it's just short of 90 pages, and we just, obviously it's a free resource for individuals to download. So if you want to go to amazon.com, or you can go to altairenterprises.store and download that for free, right? Because we see there's a lot of resources out there to speak about business without calling the names, but we believe it's not enough, right? We wanted to create a resource that will have enough for people to make a decision, and there's a lot of actionable items that individual can follow and actually take some action, right? And actually apply something from the book in a real life and create something from nothing, like just any company does. I think creating a company, it's really beautiful. I know, Beth, you also have experience with that. I think it's borderline magic, right?
Yeah.
Because then you
Yeah.
can take an idea and create something from nothing, right? Just a sheer idea. But being enthusiastic, that's kind of the core. And we obviously, as a company, wouldn't want to lose it. And that also, I think, reflects very nicely in the book as well.
It's exciting as much as it is terrifying to take something and make
Oh,
it an
yes.
idea and then put your everything into it, your
Oh,
financials,
yes.
your dreams, your thoughts, your time, your effort, everything that you have. I
Is
want to
it
go
worth it?
back. Thank you so much. You've presented
Yeah.
so well, just right out the get go, who you are and what you're doing. And I really want to thank you for the things that you're giving to the community for free, like that book, which, by the way, is Space Business 101. Now, going back, when the two of you, I want to go to where you met and where you both sat down together and said, we should start a company that foundationally helps a space education company for those in the industry. Because you said at the beginning you're both enthusiasts, but what moved you from enthusiasts that are enjoying the industry into making a committed, dedicated business together?
Okay, so I guess I'll take this one, Martinez, right? Yep, internet is there also, just making sure that I'm not disconnected, right?
Good, sure.
Okay, so the fact that Altair Enterprises, it was a long time coming, right? So this is a thing that cannot be that can be not underlined, right? So we need to underline that.
Yeah.
Martinez and I, we met around 2 years ago. So we met in a beautiful country of Georgia. So it's not the state, but the country.
Yes.
And obviously I'm local from here. And also we're writing in the book also, Beth. So just to paraphrase that. So we're speaking that Martinez and I, so we are not sons of the same country, right? Oh, that's what we're writing, the first thing. And the second thing that we're also writing, that we're not even born in the same millennia, right? So that's another thing that we're also talking in the book. But our quest to seek, because we were actively seeking for partnerships and we were seeking to make a change, right? And that led us to meet in a local meetup of the space enthusiasts, as Martynas just talked about that. So we met, obviously, and we've been also cooperating before that on different projects. Obviously, one was, let's say, the nonprofit organization, but from that, obviously, when we joined forces, there was a lot of great things that we made happen there as well. And then, obviously, with that, we saw that we connected not only on the business and like project level, we also connected as individuals, right? So we kind of clicked, and that's also what we're talking in the book, that you should be able to, first of all, trust, respect, and appreciate your potential, in order for the partnership to become great. And that's obviously how our friendship and how our partnership began, and Altair Enterprises is the fruit of that.
Wow. And so you mentioned this earlier, and I'd love to ask you both. Are you trying to fill a gap you mentioned that ESA is not covering in your regions by bringing in these educational opportunities to people like yourselves who are enthusiasts that want to be more than enthusiasts?
Well, I think it's a global issue. I mean, especially kind of tying in the education perspective. I think education is definitely a global issue. There's a lot of countries that don't even have that fortune, right? So with that, there is a lot of opportunities, right, for those individuals to educate themselves, and education can create a serious impact, right? But there is more to that, right? The education is one aspect. That's obviously the kind of fundamental piece, but create a change, obviously that education should lead somewhere, right? That could be applied in a real life scenario. And that's why we have all these different products and kind of working on vertically integrated systems inside of the company to make sure that besides getting excited and getting that education, that actually going to lead somewhere. And besides that, that excitement plus education is going to lead to a change locally, globally, regionally. I mean, that should be put in it that way, because there's a lot of excited people who are working with degrees bigger than mine, because I never finished even the high school, right? So I'm not saying that that's what somebody should do to start a company, right? There's having master's degree in business or finishing Stanford or any of these top-notch universities also adds value, but I think it's a good place to network with people, and that's what that's what individuals should seek for. Imagine if you can find, if your dorm mate could be, let's say, Mark Zuckerberg when he was younger, or Bill Gates, or any of these people, right? So I think for networking purposes. But coming back to the point is that we need to apply that, right? Because education on its own, I mean, does so much, right? There's a lot of educated people that can barely make ends meet, and that's a sad thing, right? But we need to put that in use, and we talk about that. It's either in a booklet, in a convention, smaller events, other products that we're adding to the Altair, that how to actually apply it, how to put yourself in a positions where you can win as an individual. Obviously, they could reap the financial benefits, but look, the more value you add, the more you're going to earn. Right. So if that's the case, if you're kind of going to cap out at the company that you're working with, okay, these are business opportunities. That's how you transition into business. That's what you do. That's what the path. That's what we experienced. That's what I experienced by working in 4 different industries, from sales, real estate, marketing, finance to space, eventually kind of going through the entire spectrum, at least in my case. So just trying to add value that way, right? So education is just the basic, right? Because I have these discussions all day long, with individuals, and if it's on LinkedIn or social media, and I said, look, space business is just a business. In a nutshell, that's all it is. But some people say, well, what about the upstream and downstream segment? What about these ROIs and cap rates and capexes and all these? They try to start to kind of throw terms at me, right?
Yeah.
Say, listen, that all can be taught. Right. There's just like in a new company, new business, new job that you start, there's going to be some things that you're not going to know. Right. So everything, when it comes to education, you can learn, but there's a lot of principles, and some of the principles are old in business. For example, work ethic. You cannot instill that in nobody. It doesn't matter how much you studied, what degrees do you have. Right. So talking about the principles, because work ethic, I mean, for us to take that that I see what it is this day, and it will become and will continue to grow, for a fact that 100+ speakers from top leading companies. I know we took that from decision to 8 months to this moment where these companies are coming in, and we both and our team has zero understanding how to organize events. Right.
Oh, I see.
So that requires a lot of work ethic and just figuring things out and kind of digging deep and finding the answers, talking with the right people. I mean, business is like a flow, it's a constant flow. And obviously you Beth know
Interesting.
that, right? So
Yes.
finding the gaps of the business you can kind of see as a circle. And like if you imagine just basically circle and a lot of kind of basically arrows pointing at it, right? And there's different names. There's marketing, there's sales, there's understanding the, let's say, consumer mentality. I mean, everything and more. So it's very, very complex. And obviously that you cannot get in any school or education will not provide that. That's some, called kind of hard knocks, school of hard knocks or something, right? That people call it, right? So you just
Sure.
have to go through it. But we
Wow.
encourage people, take that beyond the education. Look, we need to make a change, right? People, especially now with this new younger generation, they speak about it all the time. I'm in the job, I want to make a change, whatever that means to them, right? So that's the new generation. That's the kind of the motto that they have, right? But sometimes, we need to look into what that means to create a change, especially in a space. I mean, in space business or in a space industry, there's so many different opportunities, right? So now, as we had this conversation yesterday with Nika as well, when I sent him an image of Mars, recent image that I found on LinkedIn, I sent him a very clear image of Mars. I
Yeah.
was like, "What is that?" I said, "Look, that's home. That's home." And I was like, "Okay, well, that's awesome. That's a great image." Remember, Nika? We looked at it, both admired, and we just went into discussion like, okay, we need to focus on this. This is all beyond because nothing else matters. Like, because that's what it is. I mean, space, I think it's a place where everybody can realize, can make those realizations and who they are and what they can do beyond, because space can offer that. Real estate industry, finance, marketing. I mean, from my own personal experience, there's all these cap kind of limitations,
Wow.
right? There's
Yeah,
only so much that you can do, right? You can have a
that's
multi-billion
true.
dollar company, but in space, you can go beyond that you can ever imagine, if that's physically or just, dreaming or whatnot.
So let me ask you this, Martinez, because how insightful, and you certainly know your business and your history. So is it difficult or more difficult for someone getting into the space industry? I know you said the opportunities are limitless, but is it difficult and wash maybe some people out because the return on investment is time? Things need to
Mhm.
be patient. You don't always see something you're going to be launching or developing or designing or building tomorrow or even this year. Is that tough that you're finding when you're having these conversations and doing these networks and working with your students through their education company? Is that something they're bringing to you and saying, we're investing now, but we're not going to see it for 10, 5, beyond, years? Is that tricky? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, look, if I would have a recipe for that, probably we'll be like $1 trillion company right now.
Yeah.
I mean, to solve that issue, just to say, okay, like, look, this is what you do, right? I mean, one thing, obviously, I'm not going to say anything new that people haven't heard. Be patient and just kind of put your head
Sure.
down and work. There's obviously some things that you can do to maximize the efficiency, right? And in our company, we'll always look at these things, strategies, items that can maximize efficiency and can decrease the timelines, right? If we have a project and the kind of the deadline is 10 years, okay, how we can make it in 7.5, 5, and then 3, right? And kind of try to shrink those, because that's again, we will look at the kind of traditional space industry also, right? I think the new space become a byproduct of that because of those long timelines, right? But going back to that, I mean, it is tough, right? The business is definitely not everybody. There is a lot of books that are going to tell you that 1% there's business owners kind of top. We're not talking about top trillion. We're not talking Amazon. We're talking about just successful businesses. Could be $1 million company. You take that on a global scale, that becomes, I think, it's just like 1%, right?
Right.
So, and the rest of the people, because so what is the difference? It is those things. It's patience, it's perseverance, it's figuring things out. So that's kind of part of the recipe. And of course, this probably will become like a 2-hour episode if we actually will sit down and try to dissect those pieces, like, okay,
Yeah.
what is the recipe? And of course that would be beneficial, but look, everybody has a different recipe, right? Like the recipe and the things that I'm talking about today is basically kind of a rundown version of the books, seminars, events, mentors, people I talked with. This is kind of the information that you're getting. So whatever information you're collecting, if that's watching a TV and watching whatever top 10 whatever cat videos, or watching some news, that's going to be the information that you're going to speak, right? So for you, timeline can become longer. So what it requires for you to put your head down, no more distractions, no more people around me that going to take my time off. You get to get very super focused. And that means, focus means follow one course until successful, right?
Yeah.
And how long you have to follow that, I mean, who knows, right? It's going to be a long time. But if you understand that you're not running a sprint, you're running a marathon.
True.
But there's also a sprint inside of the marathon, because
That's
we've
true.
seen before in a race these incredible people, if that's from India, Kenya, or anywhere else, they basically sprinting through a entire marathon. So that's possible physically, right? So in business, it's also possible, and there's a lot of strategies that can apply that can speed up the process as well.
And do you think, Martynas, and then also for you, Nicholas, that your previous experience not in the space industry has allowed you to have that ethic and come up with some of those descriptions that have served you well in growing the company?
Yeah, well, definitely everything adds. Every experience, if it's working, for profit, for nonprofit, just having conversations, just doing something. Because I was doing a lot of things, and I did a lot of things. I changed at some point that actually I changed so many jobs before I moved into business that at some point actually employees, I don't know if some of your listeners got the case, if maybe there's going to be some people I have to connect with them and share mutual experience maybe. But the thing is that I was bringing those CVs, and they looked at those CVs and they said, "Look, what is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
Right? I'm just changing literally to my face, because I changed probably 15 jobs at some point, and there was like fast 2 months, 3 months, 2 months, because I couldn't fit in. I couldn't fit in either to environment. I couldn't fit in myself. I didn't feel good about it. So, but that's also an experience, right? That's while you're going through in these jobs, you have something that you can share with somebody, connect with somebody, right? Because there's so many things that are happening in life while we
So
speak. I mean, you have
why
microphone, you have your room,
space?
you have the picture.
Why did you
I mean,
fall in? Why did space fit you well, do you think?
well, it kind of caught me from the beginning. It does catch us all. I mean, when we're younger, and if I would ask a question like a 5-year-old, who do you want to be? One of those will be an astronaut.
Sure. An explorer,
So
an astronaut,
explore
all of
an
us.
astronaut. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
You
so,
too,
so
Nicholas? Would you agree? That was always in
Yeah,
your
exactly.
of course,
background too?
because explorer, that's a good word that you brought, Beth. So we humans in our nature, in our DNA, we are explorers, right? So that's what we've been doing throughout the history of our species, right? If it's been, let's say, exploring throughout the continents and building cities on the shores and the mountains, right? Or if it's been sailing across the oceans or conquering the skies that we did. And obviously when that also was all done, right? Then we put a human on the moon, right? So that's a perfect example of what we humans as a DNA we have to build, we have to explore, right? And that's why it's part of our nature, also the space as we see it, right? So Carl Sagan also wrote very nicely in his book that it can be argued that this curiosity that we humans have, right, in terms of looking up at the clear night sky and seeing all those sparkling shiny dots, right, and wondering what that is. So that Carl Sagan argued that that could be exactly what led humans to evolve to the state of mind that we have today, right? So definitely space is part of us. We are not only sons of Earth, right? We are sons of space, right? So sons and daughters and, childs, right? So as you
Yes,
can say,
yes.
so that it's part
Wow.
of us and we are part of it because we consist also all of the same materials as I also like to, when I'm having some conversations with individuals and they kind of feel down or they kind of sad with their life, right? If it's some case, I always like to remind them that we, right, the materials that humans are made of, so this is a byproduct of a star reactions, right? The thermonuclear reactions that happening in the star. So we're actually consisting of the same things as the stars, right? So we're stars, right? Basically. So
Always so
that's a
great.
good
Yes.
reminder for every
I
enthusiast that
love
will
that.
be listening
I
to
love
this and
that.
to every individual.
Good to hear that always. Yes. Okay. So, who are some of your both ideal or representative students that are coming to use your network and coming to use your company as a space education company? And do they have any prior space experience? Have they taken a degree in a space degree somewhere else and they're looking to apply it now into a business? Or tell me about some of the students that are coming and using your services.
Mm. So individuals that we're talking with, just for people to understand what we're talking about when it means space education, what we do is basically that could be one of the vertically integrated things is podcast, right? One of those is IAC. We're also developing our on-demand course platform that's also going to be available. Will be launched in the middle of September as well,
Ooh.
and we're going to be adding value to that as well through this kind of venue. But when it comes to now adding value, the way we don't do a lot of the kind of face-to-face interactions, like if we can say that, even though we have some private calls with individuals who are developing their own small kind of companies also and thinking, okay, how they'll put my team together, how this could be achieved, how do I get a mentor, how do you raise capital, from your own experience, kind of sharing that. But like for me, honestly, we talk with these people, but like recollection of, okay, this is the company and that's what they do. Like we don't keep that close of a distance like with the people, right? I think we just help as much as we can. And like in my personal experience, like if you get a mentor, you just take so much that you can take from that individual. You just, both kind of give each way. It's a two-way traffic. And then, okay, there's just so much. And then you move on, you get another mentor.
I
So
see.
that's what we're also doing because there is more that other people can provide, right? So we just become a collective or a place for people to, let's say, provide a courses, and we just hosting them and obviously adding value to those individuals or the end user through the courses, which is another way of education. It could be again to international space conventions, which is kind of more business related. So that kind of ranks it up a little bit more. So we go from just introductory courses, then we go to the business conversations, then we'll go to, again, if it could be private mentoring. So, but we don't have like recollection of names and individuals to say like, oh, there's John and John now has this. Maybe in the future, obviously we'll have that. And we keep, kind of focus of, one individual at the time more. Right. Maybe in some time we can afford to do that. The reason we cannot afford to do that because we're just putting our heads down. Where Altair is right now, as we see it, it's still a very much developing company. We have a lot of things in places. We already, Nika probably is going to laugh because we're creating actually plans as we speak for 27. And that we're doing that today. And we do that. We've been looking at the things that we do. We said, okay, let's do this. And what the next year is going to look like. Okay, we want venue to be like this, one day event to be like this. What about the courses? What about this? What about this? What about the other product we have on the shelf? Okay, let's take that down. So we're just too busy in our operations to spend the time individually, even though we might add some good value. But I mean, we're also humble enough to know there's better people than us that can help you to create a launch company, a satellite company, that they know more. We're just helping to fill in the gaps as we see it, right? We don't have the right answers, but we're just putting our own kind of creating our own soup, and whoever feels that, okay, that's a good tasting soup, okay, they can continue to have more.
And so is this the inaugural International Space Convention? Is this the first? Wow.
Yes, it's the first.
Yep, it is going to be the first, the one that's happening in September. So I think my connection is very bad.
We can see you. I can hear you. You look great and sound great too. You can walk us through what we should expect at the convention. Like, what are people attending? What will they get out of it? Networking, you mentioned a lot of great speakers. And what are some of the things that you have planned?
Okay, so that's a huge conversation on its own, actually, but I'll try to scale that down and give you the answer like that. So with this International Space Convention, so we're expecting a lot of individuals who will be attending. So obviously we have those international companies, right? The 100 companies, 100 plus companies that are participating, the leading organizations. Just to drop a few names, so Arianespace and Planet and Naxar and many others, right, that are participating. And then obviously we have this local side that is going to be also present. So from local side, we have from those 4 countries, which is Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia, right? So that's the Caucasus region that the convention is covering. So from there, we're going to have representative from space industry, so both private companies and the government agencies that are present in this region. Plus, additionally, we're going to have business owners who are not in the space industry, right, but are seeking for those space solutions and space applications, right? If it's they're from the maritime industry, or they're from the agriculture, IoT, defense sectors, right? And are looking for those Earth observation solutions, right, from the satellite operators and so forth, right? If it's internet connectivity or telecommunications that they're looking for, so they're going to be present, and obviously other individuals as well who are enthusiasts, who are again startup founders from international spaces, right, who want to meet those individuals, network with them, and learn more about the industry itself. So what's happening, what are the technological advances, what are the trends, what issues are there in the space industry, and how can they participate, jump on the bandwagon, or how can they actually create a new wave in the industry, right, and solve some of the problems, because there's many issues currently in the space industry, space debris being one of them, and we're putting a lot of emphasis on space sustainability. It's a main theme for this convention, because with this projects, we also want to make sure that also we're putting a lot of emphasis on that in the book also, Beth, right, that the people that are creating those companies, right, many of them are just chasing the short-term like monetary benefits, right? So and as Martynas mentioned, that business and, you know, obviously, especially in the space industry, being a marathon, right? So that's important to keep in mind, to keep the sustainability and making sure that the projects that you do and the things that you do as a company does not pose threats in the future for other companies, for humanity's presence in space, right? And generally for the climate and, you know, so forth. So that's in a nutshell about International Space
Wow.
Convention and
He
who we
says,
expect to
in
see.
a nutshell, what an endeavor. Oh my word. And this is so exciting, but also overwhelming. Has there been anything like this conference prior where people from the region can gather, can provide solutions, or has it just been individually difficult to do this?
It is the first
Well,
edition. It is the first edition in this region, and that's why those great opportunities are there for those companies, right? Because we that's actually the reason why we decided to do this convention in this region, right? Because we saw the need that this industry, even like the internet right now as I'm speaking, right? So I mentioned a couple times I don't have proper connection, so that's also one of the things that we need, right? So
Right.
that
Right. It could
obviously,
be
and for
mine.
other
It could be mine too, Nicholas. Don't worry. It's
yeah,
everywhere,
well,
right? And these are the challenges, and there's so many. So you know that there are people that are bringing solutions to sustainability, and you talked a lot about and space debris, and so they have that expertise, but perhaps it's, you know, siloed. They can't bring that to a company that is not yet in existence or partners with the resources. And so you're allowing that to happen in a really organic way through the conference so they can network and meet each other and then go from there, right?
Plus, there's the second side also, which I haven't mentioned so far. So, also, this will have a big impact in terms of the next generations, right? And the emerging companies that will follow, right, in the space industry in this region, just because all these individuals, right? So, that will be coming. We did many smaller events before just to encourage individuals, talked about space business, the opportunities in there. But then obviously we thought, so it would be best, right, if we have those leading companies and individuals to actually talk about this, right, because they can better showcase that, right, so they know more in those particular niches of theirs, right, if it's upstream, downstream, hardware, software solutions that they're providing, right, so that would be best. And the next generation, we're looking to inspire them also with this edition. So
I'm
that's kind of
inspired.
twofold reasons.
I'm inspired because the way you just seamlessly explained all that, just going through your checklist of what's expected at the conference and then post conference and forward, that's amazing and incredible. And I'm sure people are very, very grateful for you both to have this opportunity to do this. And so, I just wish you all the best success. So, this is in September, you mentioned this year, and people can still get tickets and sign up and attend, yes, in person and perhaps online.
Yep, that's correct. It's in a hybrid format, so they can go alternateprizes.store, right?
Great.
And they can check out the attendance plans that there are and the speakers list and the agenda that we have and all the other activities that will be happening during the event.
This is great. Oh, wonderful. Okay, now let's go back to the two of you because you're doing such great things. What's a typical day for you both? Do you have, and what are some of the challenges? Do you have a time zone challenge? Do you have, you mentioned also your different ages and you have different experiences and backgrounds you're bringing in. As you move forward to building this company, what are some of the challenges that you guys work together really well and balance each other out to bring?
Hmm. Well, the challenges, obviously, there's a lot of challenges. I mean, while developing and especially doing something that, as we see currently now, right now in this industry, what we provide, there has not been much done, right? So we're always going to face some challenges that.
Yeah, I
Okay, so
think
let's see,
we can hear you.
my internet now is
You're still
really
good.
gone. So
You're
just give me
still
a
Yep.
second.
good.
Okay, good. Good. So regarding the challenges, obviously, my personal day, and Nika maybe can recall his day, how it starts. For me, it could start 8 a.m., 7 a.m., 9 a.m., look, 10 a.m. sometimes. So it depends how much work you had, how much you work into the night. But it usually starts like, oh my God, that is gonna be awful. Right. So and you might go to the bed, that's gonna be like, oh my God, another day is gonna be awful. So, and sometimes look, that being like a business owner, typically as we people think, oh, I'm in charge of my life. And obviously that's the good side, that you're in charge and but when figuring, mostly in the business, you're going to be figuring challenges. And sometimes it's really tough. Sometimes there's a lot of those tough challenges that you're not going to find answers to in 2 calls, 3 calls, and meetings. And maybe it's going
Yeah.
to take a month or two or more. Maybe you're not going to find that for an entire year, right? Until you're going to go a certain path, certain experience, they'd be like, okay, wow, that was stupid, so that was easy, right? So one of those. So and what I'm saying, that not to discourage people, that it starts hard, but obviously you can pump yourself up and be like, look, this is going to be the great day ever. But the way you look at it, I mean, look, the life of a business owner is just like this throughout the day. It's like, oh my God, I'm the best. Oh my God, my life sucks. This is great. This is awful. It's just like this, it's up and down throughout the day. And you're laughing because you know what I'm talking
I
about, right?
do. I'm laughing because I know it's true. It's true. And
Exactly.
you have to have mentors. Do you both, the two of you, I know you rely on each other, I'm sure. It's so good to have a partner. I wish I had one, and sometimes I'm glad I don't, to be honest. But it's nice to always have someone you can bounce ideas off of,
Sure.
someone who can be resourceful or pick up where you left off. Who are your mentors for the two of you? Is there a business model or company that you always kind of are looking at in the background to say they've got it, or they're doing it right, or they've got some great ideas?
Sure, of
Yep,
course.
there's of course a lot of companies, Beth, as you mentioned, that they have set the standards in the industry for different things, right? So if we're talking about leading companies, like can be Amazon, can be Apple, and many other companies similar to that. And obviously we as business owners, right, we do study those companies, right? We study them, obviously, we see what they've been doing, how they came where they are, right? What decisions they made, what they do the way that nobody else does, right? And obviously we try then to connect the dots and see how that can be applied on our side, right? But talking about the problems, that was your previous question, Beth, right? And the typical day. So for us, the typical day is a lot of work, obviously, right? And but besides the work, the most important thing that is for every new space, not only space, so for every entrepreneur, I would say that throughout the day, when it's a startup, especially, so directors, the founders, they have to put the caps of different individuals and positions throughout the day, right? So in the morning, you can be a marketing person, you can be in the evening during a call like a salesperson, right? Or you can be just an individual sending messages, right? So throughout the day, or doing some things that maybe doesn't sound exactly like a founder or a director, right? But that's part of the path, right, that you have to undertake. But it is important to work on self-development, and we do dedicate a lot of time to that, as Martinez mentioned. So business is tough, and one reason why it is tough, because there's so many pieces that fall into it, right? So in business, you just don't have like one weakness, right? You have a lot of those areas where you lack expertise, right? Whoever you may be, right? There is no one person that is master of all things business, right? But you know as a business owner, you need to work on that, and you need to understand all the areas of how your company, how business works, right? And also in the book, we wrote this good, let's say, example that you can compare, right? Good comparison in terms of entrepreneur cannot be only passionate and hardworking, right? Entrepreneurs should acquire those skill sets and should work on that. If not, look, this entrepreneur that is passionate can be compared to a rocket, right? Launch vehicle that is situated on the launch pad, right? But doesn't have enough propellant to actually hit the orbit, right? So that's one comparison that can be done. So that's working on those skills and working on obviously self-improvement, you're gaining those skills. We do not only study the companies, we do also study the individuals. Obviously, Martynas has some of the individuals that he's studying, right? I have some individuals that I'm following and I'm studying, right? Obviously, and seeing how we can close this gap between us and them, and obviously the individual side that we're also adding from our personal side, right? So that's great. It's a big game. It's a big
it's
game.
Always a challenge, right? It's always tricky because even on a project I was just doing as an entrepreneur or a solopreneur or whatever we're called, we find we have to be really resourceful. We have to hire the right people or bring the right people onto the team. And we have to know ourselves enough or well enough to say, I'm not good at this. I need to bring someone else in who is good at this, even though I can do it. But someone else can do it better. And probably in the long run, if I invest in them, they'll save me time. They'll gain money for us, or they'll be profitable or do, make our commitment full circle. I just did a project where it had some legal requirements and I couldn't find or bring in an attorney at the time. So I just had to dig deep into the internet and find examples and case studies. And then I had to write my own disclaimers and just figure it out on myself. And then I finally hired an attorney. And I'm like, well, that could have been hours of saved work. But I learned a lot. And we all know as entrepreneurs,
we do
right?
understand like completely. We feel that we know exactly what you mean.
Yes, and this takes up so much of your day. So I love asking CEOs, what does your day look like? Well, it looks exactly that. It's like you're chugging along, you have a plan, and then squirrel, and then you got to go chase it, and then that takes hours or days, even like Martynas said. And then sometimes you come back and that squirrel had nothing to do with your work or what you thought. Oh my word. But it's good for people to hear this from both of you, because what you're bringing and the services you're providing are part of a journey into this investment of this new frontier of space development and space organizations and exploration, because we're going to constantly be pivoting, right? We don't know. And I can't wait to, from your conference, get the notes and understand what people are saying. You talked a lot about, and I know the listeners would love to hear this too, trends, data, where the money is showing that it's going to be projected into. You talked about space debris. You talked about sustainability. Those are just scratching the surface. What are some of the other things that you guys have seen that you're definitely going to be addressing either at the conference or in your future work?
Nika, you want to continue?
Yeah, of course. I can always take it. So there's going to be a lot of other topics also that will be covered. If it's, let's say, the funding opportunities for the emerging startups, or if we're talking about the international cooperation, the space law side of things and regulations as well.
Oh, there's that law again. There it is.
Yep. Because those have been also trailing behind since the 60s and 70s, haven't been really changed much. And now we have a complete set of new issues with that. So the gray areas, and that's what actually led to the overcrowding and, this space debris situation. So that's the byproduct of this gray areas, right? Because when we were starting out as a space industry, that was not even an idea. You couldn't even think that was possible to, put so many pieces of debris and so many unoperational satellites into the orbit, because the launch rates were so small, right? They were very tiny. So they were on average, they were 3-4 launches per year, right? So, and that was a good year, right? Back then, right? So, but now we have 3-4 launches, sometimes overnight, if it's SpaceX or if it's other companies that are performing that. So that's just incredible. And the access is also lowered, right, for the entry to the space. It's the cheaper launch with the reusability. The spacecraft have been changed, obviously, from the bus-sized satellites. They've been changed to the nanosats and even like pocket cubes, right? That can fit in your pocket actually and can
Sure.
transmit the signal and do like almost the same applications that those big satellites did. So there's a lot of innovation in the space industry happening. If it's, let's say, the software, if it's simulation, the situational awareness, and there's a lot of things that will be discussed during the convention, right? So everybody who has their own favorite niche will be able to find the topic.
Good, good. Oh, I look forward to that. You're so right. Last night, I do a walk. I try to do 2 walks a day, morning, night, I have a dog. And so, she needs to go and energy, and it's good. I get to walk. Last night, I saw 3 satellites within the span of 10 minutes over my house, like just crossing the nighttime sky.
Yep.
First, there was one satellite, and I looked it up on the app on my phone. It was a Chinese satellite. The other 2 satellites within, again, 10 minutes, they weren't coming up on my app, which is typical. Sometimes they're not categorized, or it takes a while for them to get into the app as a categorized satellite or space item. And sometimes they're not categorized. So you actually don't know what that is. But seeing that many in 10 minutes, and they were flying pretty fast, which means in my walk, within the last like 30 minutes of my walk, those same satellites circled back. They were coming back around. And you just sit there with that for a minute, and you're like, I just saw the same thing circle our planet the whole way by the time I was just walking the dog. This is our new frontier. And so for you to bring up, the different type of trends, like I mentioned, that we're going to have to look into legal debris, how we're going to do this. This is overwhelming. I'm sure people who are attending, sometimes they have their niche, but if you're just starting as a startup, it must be overwhelming.
Well, the thing is, I think adding to what Nika also mentioned, that I think with overwhelming, I think overwhelming becomes where we see a lot of players, right? We see a lot of happening. I see a lot of, again, now with the space debris, and we see increasing amount of satellites and they're being used, misused. We see the collisions. Again, there's no collision avoidance systems. There's no management, space traffic management systems in place. The law is definitely behind. But there's another thing that kind of addition to that could makes me exciting, and I think the opportunity that could take place one day. So that opportunity is, as we spoke with the individual Brent Burby, and he works on DART mission currently right now. He's one of the leading team members there, and that's the first ever mission that we actually try to deflect an asteroid. We're trying to deflect an asteroid. So the question when we talked with him on a podcast, and it was an honor to obviously have him and to ask some insightful questions. So the question was, can we use off-the-shelf components, and can we create that as a business, as a viable business in the future? And can we actually start looking into the scientific side of space? Because a lot of the spaces right now, we have like space company, but it's actually providing technology back, right, to Earth, which of course is needed. But then, okay, how much more do we need? I mean, there's so many operators out there that they're already providing great enough data, and everybody that comes kind of behind them, okay, we'll have something new, something fresh, and there's new website, and of course we understand that part, that's business, right?
Yeah.
But I think if the hope and kind of can the space economy go beyond just the traditional business, as we look at the things that we do inside of Altair, obviously maybe it's just a glimpse kind of to see where a company is going, and not too much at the current moment. Obviously it will be more visible and global as the years would come. But hopefully that will be also the future hope for the space industry, that this space scientific missions will become part of this business ecosystem, right? Because now it's treated as something kind of secondary, that doesn't actually matter, right? It's something that the government agencies do. It's not being funded. The investors don't care about that, right? Well, actually, in the universe, I mean, we're just a small ball that's kind of floating in space, and we think that we're doing something big, but in actuality, we're just kind of still there, right? Something is still happening the same, even though, oh my God, $1 trillion economy. So I think there's so much more that could be done going beyond Earth, right? So I think more interstellar travel, and obviously us becoming, that's why people take those individuals, if it's Elon Musk on a pedestal, obviously there's pros and cons to everything, right? But take those people as one of the pioneers, because they're looking
Yeah.
beyond the business. They're looking into deep space. So
Yes.
I think, with those pioneers, with those leaders, I think that will obviously instill the hope, because I'm being one of those people that those individuals instill the hope, and I'm trying to carry the torch as obviously now it's only a match, but somehow someday hopefully it will come a torch,
Right.
so we can carry and can pass it on to other people, so actually we can come back to the real meaning. I'm not saying that real meaning to me as I see it, as I was a young kid reading through the books and I saw the Voyager traveling, and the photos of the Saturn, for example. That was the space for me that I fell in love with, right? So I think I hope that's where the space industry will end up at some point, hopefully in the future.
And so, my last question for both of you, because this is incredible. I think there's so much on the horizon that you're doing, that you're providing, that you're sharing and showcasing for so many to join you on your journey through your company, through your podcast, through your books and your resources. So, thank you. Would you both go if given the opportunity?
To space,
Yes.
of course. That doesn't need a thought. No, without a second thought.
And when do you think that will be? Do we really think that our turn, as because we're just not advocates, we're entrepreneurs in the industry here. When do you really think we'll be seeing each other, all three of us, in space? 10 years, 20 years further?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, but actually it could be arranged in a couple of years as well. I mean, because now we have this private sector also, that the space tourism opening up, and many things are possible
Yeah.
nowadays. So that's one of the things that makes it exciting, that you don't actually have to be an astronaut anymore to go to space, right? And now we see some exciting projects that had some mixed reviews in the beginning, but now okay, it's kind of punching through. Like if it's the orbital like gateways and the stations, then space hotels, right, that will be coming up. So it's just incredible thing, and many more incredible things are coming, and hopefully also we'll be part of that very soon.
Good. I agree. I think it is soon. I think it's really soon. And I want to see both of you there too. I mean, you'll have to get behind me because I'm in line and we're all in line, but there's enough room, right? We can all share.
No problem.
Nicholas
As
is
long as we all
laughing.
go there, that's no problem.
Yes, it's so great. Okay, two last questions. I know I said I would ask you one more, but let's get two
No
more
problem.
in. I want to first ask where everyone can find you, find Altair, find out more about the conference for the International Space Conference. Can you share with us those links and resources?
Sure. So altairenterprises.com, that's the official website where you can see who we are as a company, more details about us, and those vertically integrated products. And obviously, if you click on ISC 2022, you're going to get to altairenterprises.store, and that's where you're going to find more information about the upcoming event.
All right, good, perfect. And then finally, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs in the industry? And I know you've done this throughout your book, but let's do something that maybe you haven't shared yet. Like, let's share something like if you could just be real for a moment and step away. And you've already been so kind to do this and talk about your day and the challenges and all the many hats you have to wear. But if someone is listening to the podcast right now and they say, gosh, it sounds like Nicholas and Martynas really have it. Like they really have the vision and the strength and the experience and everything they're going to be bringing together. I'm going to look forward to watching them. And they would say to me,
Well, that's a tough one. So, Martinez, what would you say about that? And because
Wow.
I'm having a hard time right now to come up with.
Nika is giving me the tough questions. Okay. So well, I mean, if I'm understanding your question correctly, I mean, there's something that I would share just the individuals that we haven't shared, right? So kind of that helps individuals or whatnot. So I think the main thing, I think that kind of when you say that, it's some things that kind of always bites people in the butt, right? Like you need to understand that the work, the ethics that required for you to do business, right? I think that's something that a lot of people overlook. Right now, I mean, I've been being, in the marketing industry and been involved that for a long time. I mean, we worked closely with a particular industry niche, and we scaled the company from basically myself working at home for a long time, just again coming back to the kind of work ethic, to actually office employees and having 1.3 billion dollars worth of clients. That was a big deal. And It's just, I think I saw that by being in the social media kind of realm, that there's a lot of unethic things that are happening, because we're obviously in this day and age, there's always different way that we can make money, earn money. And I think also that's the byproduct of the social media, and that we see that a lot of people became more unethical because they try to cut the corner, they try to save the time rather than coming back to those kind of life principles of just work ethic, right? So I think being ethical, those are the things that we don't talk in a book. We just talk
Yeah.
about the principles and steps. But if you just remember, be ethical, because those things will bite you in the butt. I mean, and that will hurt
Yes.
a lot, right? If you're not going to follow the ethics and the principles, somebody will come back 10 years after and be like, look, I've seen these cases in my own case, where some people being then presented in a social media and in space industry is like, look what he did 10 years ago. It's irrelevant at this current moment where that person is, but I mean, that just continues to haunt them, right?
Yeah.
So throughout the entire history of your product development or business development, just be nice to the people. Don't create unnecessary situations where you're going to be put in a cases where people can laugh at you, or your business can suffer, or your legacy and all this hard work that you put into can go to nothing,
So
right?
here is where I'm going to pause our regular recording. I'm going to continue to record, but I thank you
Sure.
both. And I'm going to switch into this conversation because I always have like a little bonus section where people can hear more. Like I call it, like after the mic is turned off. And this is it. This is gold. This is phenomenal. And I want to share with you. And that's why we have these honest conversations. It just happens to be a podcast. So I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you mentioned ethics, because as a speaker, before I was working as my own independent company, as a speaker, people would ask me and want me to talk about my time at NASA, and specifically the Columbia tragedy and how I worked through that when I was there and what I did in response, because I was one of the first folks in the newsroom responding to that. And it just always felt really wrong for me to I don't want to say make money off of that speech. It's part of who I am and what I did.
Mm.
It's part of my work that was at NASA. But for me to stand on a stage and pull people's emotions and then put them somewhere and then bring them along to, you know, just to handle that in such a fragile way, it just
Mm.
didn't seem to work for me, just for me. Now, people do this, people go,
Yeah.
but I love what you said, and I'm appreciating it, because the work ethic and the easy shortcuts that have come on social media, that have come and are going to come and go, right, in this industry and all the industries, it seems like this one especially has to really weave through and filter through some of those ethical, non-ethical folks. And I'm hoping, because there's so many people that you already know, they don't understand the space industry. And if they're making an investment either in you or your resources or your services provided, but they're not fully understanding, it's kind of like if I were to tomorrow to invest in Bitcoin and NFT or microbiology. It's just not a field I'm an expert in. And so I have to have a little bit of trust and a little bit of faith. And so for
Mm.
you both to guide through your work, through your education company, and keep ethics as one of your key values, really respect that. I'm so glad you said that for the future startups and business owners. That's going to be key.
I hope so. I hope that that will be the takeaway from them, because I mean that's the differences that we speak. And obviously Nika is Nicholas is also, we work together and we both reflect that. Obviously we will always have the issues or something that happens, is like, look, let's keep real, let's keep things real, and let's make the okay, like we messed up with this small thing. Okay, look, let's just say, look, we messed up, and let's just say that, right? because why hide those things? We all make mistakes, we all do things, and just to make sure that those are not crucial mistakes, so
Yeah.
that means just don't do anything stupid, that's all
Yeah.
that is, right? So that means, again, maybe invest in yourself more. Don't hang around with the people that you used to hang around, if that's going to clubs or bars or whatever that is. Kind of just the typical, you don't need the IQ of 160 to understand those things, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's so much material that we've heard. I mean, you can just open up your phone and just like you see that on your feed always, like 10 things to be successful. It's like this. It's just like, it's like, okay, I know already, right? So, but somehow we still don't follow. There's a lot of people that don't follow that, right? They still want to kind of, okay, like this is
Shortcut.
too long,
Sure.
shortcut. Because
Yeah.
now this is the day and age, that Beth, we live like we want everything instantly. And it's not, I'm not blaming like the generation. I'm not trying to be a boomer, right? Like, okay, oh my God, these kids now is just like they don't have the patience. But the thing is that it's seriously, it lacks the patience. People do lack patience, and because
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough.
They chasing shortcuts, yeah, and they forget that the best things don't come like easy, right? So that's
Yeah.
they want to take out the hard work, they want to take out the learning, and they just want the results right away.
Yeah.
So that's
for your Beth thumbnail, I probably would use, instead of our photos, I would use like have you seen this old like Amazon where the Jeff Bezos was working at the desk that's like made up from like door or something, this spray paint that says Amazon.com. I would probably use that as a thumbnail, like that, and now with the buff Jeff, Bezos.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
Oh,
look,
yeah.
patience.
Right. Right.
yeah.
That's true. And it's something that I'm so grateful you said the word, realize you made a mistake, admit it, and
Yeah.
then move on. And that doesn't always happen if you don't have strength, if you don't have ethics, if you don't have a good sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that you said that. And I think a lot of people see what we started this conversation with, right? You said that some of the biggest investment firms in the world are projecting this industry to be trillions, but that doesn't mean we make trillions, and it doesn't mean we make millions even. It means the opportunities there for the right people who are sustainable and have the right business models and ethics. And there'll be, as in any industry, the people who can make a quick buck or a quick investment and turn it around as well. But I think especially here, as you said, it's going to be something where the tough and the people who have that kind of spirit and an entrepreneurial spirit to stay with it will be profitable and successful. I hope it's both of you guys, because I've really enjoyed getting to know you, both of you, and your goals. I think what you're doing is phenomenal. I'm looking forward to somehow participating in or enjoying the conference coming up. I'd love that. And then just getting as I follow you, and in your work, and I love that you're sharing the resources, because there's a lot of people who can learn from what you're doing, and when it's free or when it's shared, it's really valued.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. I mean, that's where we took a time. I mean, and from all these things to actually organize, still in the moment of organizing this event and organizing the next year's edition at the same time, and doing other things in a company with like, slow down. Okay, we should write a booklet. That's ridiculous. There's no time. There's no time. And now we're going to give that away for free. Oh my God, this is ridiculous.
I know.
But look, now that we're coming back, like, why are we here? Why are we here? Okay, so we just actually, we want to bring, we're education company. Let's go back to the basics, to the values. Okay, we like
to
this
the bottom
integrity.
line, right? To go back and reflect, right? What's happening around, right?
Like, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. It's going to be painful. Oh, I know. Okay, let's do this.
It is painful. It is. There's nothing, if it were easy, not everyone would do it, right?
Yeah. But we're happy. We see right now, I think it has like, I don't know, not many, like 300 downloads, and it's obviously a free resource on Amazon or, through the website. And obviously we, pushing it just a little bit. We're not even promoting it. Just for people to get that and see the reviews, like, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I'm going to use that. I got people reached out. I'm going to use it for my thesis, kind of to reference material. I was like, look, that's phenomenal. That's for us. That's so much better than, anything like, you cannot put a price on that.
Yeah.
And Nika pushed us more than me. He was like, look, the book, we need to write it. And, he liked that idea so much. And
I actually, when I was writing the book, I was just post-surgery like situation, and I was writing like that, and we were rushing it, like Martynas and I, we were on the call. Oh, let's hurry up, let's do it quicker, and we just wanted to write it, make it as perfect as we want, as can be, right? And then obviously to push it out for the people, and then obviously to wait till the long-term effect of that kicks in, right?
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm sure people
Good.
will enjoy it. I know I can't wait to apply it here as well and listen to you continue on your podcast. So, best of success. I wish to you both. I'm going to be following you at the conference, if not somehow, joining you, I hope. And then please come back and share things as you get them here on Casual Space.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth.
Anytime. Invitation extended for both of you anytime. And I'm
Look,
sure people are going to want to follow.
Already, it's on a calendar.
Okay, good. Good. All right. Thank you again. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Beth.